Honestly, I've been delaying this deck profile quite a fair bit because I have some announcements to make at the end of this video. I know I did the opening quite a fair bit ago, and I'm actually recording this video pretty early. I just had to release it now because I needed to cover some other videos out of the way. By now, you would have seen my Luan video and whatnot. But before it gets too late, I want to talk about a deck that has gotten support that I have shown on the channel before once, and I want to talk about it again because I think it really leads to us talking about some very important questions moving into not only Festival 2025, but also further on into the rest of this year and possibly what is the future of Skyride? Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I am back to talk about Vagila, my favorite deck in Standard in terms of its protagonist. I'll be honest, I really love Skyride, and I think everyone knows that by now. I'm just a huge fan, and knowing that we got a second start deck, this time an official Japanese product, not just a magazine promo set, I'm really happy. Honestly, I could not be happier. We even got this DSR style Vajula from the Dear Days 2 set, which initially this art was teased as early as June or July 2024. So the fact that we got it after 7 months is pretty insane. But I'm just really glad to finally get a full-scale Vajula drawn correctly for the Rewrite the Skyfall. So I'm really happy about it. But I'm not happy about this deck. I'm not happy about this deck because I feel that the cards in the start deck that I did the opening video for, I think a lot of them have been botched. In my honest opinion, I think they are so much more weaker as compared to Estacion. It's not even funny. It's weird to say that a lot of the strengths of this start deck is the strengths of the previous start deck, which is, you know, the reprints, you know, stuff like Fanfare, Azera, Little Cosmo, and I think that is really quite a sad point for me. So before we start, I'm going to put the links in the description below for the previous Vajula deck profile, as well as a little edit I made for Vajula. It's a little meme edit from last year. I'm just going to throw all of that down in the description below. If you're interested, you can check those links out. But let's talk about this deck. I think, honestly, right now, given the state of Dragon Empire with Pasagra being hit and the past few Dragon Empire decks actually pretty bad, stuff like Real Dragon, like I don't know what Dragon Empire's future is going to look like this year. I think even with Sibylt, it's going to be pretty boring. But that's just my opinion. Unless they somehow manage to resurrect Draconic Kaiser Vermilion from the dead with DZ 9 or a tournament promo for El Culebra or freaking, I don't know, Z-Lance. I'm really not sure what Dragon Empire's future looks like this year. And yeah, let's talk about this deck proper. So our right deck is still going to be the Vajula right deck. It's exactly the same. Nothing has changed here. So if you need the full right deck explanation, I'm going to put links in the description below. You can just check that out. Really, the great one is just going to help you, you know, save a card in hand. You don't really use this plus 2k skill because your deck now has evolved to have more rush. So that rush is always down turn 2, not turn 1 anymore. So you don't really need to use that skill. Shooting Star Vajula, definitely the weirdest part of this deck. It's very hard to achieve the 4 units on board to get a critical. I'm trying my best in this list to ensure I can. So you will see some cards in this deck that are meant to lean towards an earlier turn 2 aggression. That is to fuel that +1 crit skill. But that's the only payoff they all get. Right after the +1 crit skill, you generally don't have much options for crits, and it gets pretty bad. But the upside is that with Blazing Star Cross, it does give you a crit on turn, what, 4, 5, or 6, and that should hopefully end the game. Because if you don't end the game, you are gonna die. And the good part about all the orders is that they are all grade 2, which with Shooting Star Vajula, you can Omni Search out, because on right, from a Vajula unit, you can look at the whole deck for any grade 2 of your choice, which is pretty damn important. It's the only saving grace of Shooting Star Vajula at this point, because, you know, God knows why they are printing cards with anti-synergy, and I'll show you later in a bit. Rewrite the Star Vajula is still exactly the same. He's just a CB1 when this unit attacks. Choose one rear guards and stand it, which is pretty great. 2 rear guards and stand it, which is always going to be Azera at this point. The other skill is EB3. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it. Choose a grade 2 card for your drop. Call it back to rear guard circle. So again, it's all pretty basic. Still the same from DZ-BTO2, and it's still pretty good today. But of course, when you read Estacion, you're gonna find out that, you know, you were robbed of your 3,000 yen. Other than that, though, I mean, they're trying to force the grade 2 synergy pretty much. But as you will see, right off the bat, there is some anti-synergy, and I'll show it to you. So first and foremost, for our grade 3s, our grade 3s is pretty simple. We are playing 4 copies of Vardula. I mean, this is pretty, this one is pretty obvious, right? We've one in the right deck. And then we play for Fanfare. Fanfare is definitely one of the strongest cards in this deck because of how much power it can swing and give you. Again, he's a repeated card, he is a reprint, so you can just check him out from the previous video. Generally, if you go second, he gives himself and Ezra plus 10,000 power, and then that gives you quite a fair bit of number of columns. But if you go first, he only gives you plus 5,000, which, you know, is not that effective. But it could be against a grade 2 Vanguard. It is debatable. And then the second skill is that on the front of Rearguard Circle, which is that at the end of the turn, if you played a Finishing Bro or Hisatsu card, you can move this card to your soul, counter charge 1, draw 1. So it's basically Zuitan on legs, which is not bad. Again, there is nothing really bad about Fanfare. The problem is he's great. He's grade 3, which puts him at odds with a lot of the cards in this deck. I guess you could say if this card was grade 2, it would be too strong. But like, Fanfare is such a great blow-up card to open on turn 3, you definitely need to play it for. I've seen players for Vardula play this at 0 copies because they're like, oh, I need to focus on the grade 2 synergy. I strongly disagree. I really think for Vardula, you need as much power as you physically can. And Ezra just Fanfare literally carries half of the power in this deck, so you definitely would need to play it. Again, this is one of the starting points of anti-synergy, despite the fact that this is one of the strongest cards in the deck, because it's not a grade 2, right? It's not a grade 2 means you cannot Omni-Search it out with Shooting Star Vardula, which immediately puts it at odds with half the deck, because you need to either draw it or call it, either of which is pretty difficult right now. And I'll show it to you exactly what I mean in the next segment. The next segment is going to be our finishing moves, our ultimate skills. I have no idea what they're called. I'm just going to put it as orders, because English and Japanese translate differently. We play 4 Stardust Blade and 2 copies of Blazing Starcross. And again, a lot of people will start screaming at me saying, "Oh man, what are you doing?" Yes, this is also pretty political. I think the one that everyone can agree on is going to be Stardust Blade. Stardust Blade is the best order in this deck, still by a long shot, and for good reason. Stardust Blade is CB1 skill. You can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose a card from among them, call it to the rearguard circle, shuffle the deck. Vardula gets the effect that for every normal unit on your rearguard circle and in your drop zone, it gains 3,000 power. And if your rearguards are retired during your turn for this turn, you can search your deck for a card and call it. Again, this doesn't really do anything because we don't really have Denial Griffin in standard. Technically speaking, if Denial Griffin does come to standard, this will be the strongest deck ever, because now you can just trade your deck for any card, and finally you can open Fanfare. But other than that though, not really. You're hoping to open Fanfare from the top 5 skill with CB1 skill, or if you're on turn 2, you're hoping to open one of your burst killers like Latifah. And other than that, you just don't really get anything. It is a net 0, which is pretty painful, but it does give you quite a fair bit of numbers, so I guess that's the trade-off. Then we reach Blazing Starcross. And Blazing Starcross is even worse. For a -1 and a Soul Blast 1, you choose one of your Ezra units and it gets 10,000 power. Ezra is this guy. I should just preface. This is Ezra. The previous guy was Fanfare. This is Ezra. Okay, so you give Ezra, the same guy on the yard, you give him 10,000 power, and the skill that, you know, when he restands, if you have Persona right this turn, or if your opponent has 3 more cards in a bind zone, then he gets a critical. This card was featured pretty early in the manga, I think in one of the earlier fights, but they've taken about 8 months to import this card, and my god, it's bad. I know turn 3 crit is pretty strong, that's why they gave it the Persona right or the Thunder Strike restriction, but this is too far. It's like forcing bind synergy into Vardula now just because Vardula already has a bind skill. That's too much. And they will try and compensate this in this start deck by printing 1 more bind unit. That will be N-Wing. But again, because Vardula has never been a bind deck for the last year, I don't get it. Yes, you can just Persona right, but because of how little this deck actually draws, I don't even know if you want to look for a Persona right. In fact, some Vardula players throw out all their Persona right because they're focusing on the turn 2 kill. So the question is then, who was this for? And there are people who just don't even play Blazing Starcross because, you know, they just think, oh, if I don't win my turn 3, I'm just dead. So again, this one's pretty difficult. I will play Blazing Starcross in my decks because if you can 2-box it on turn 4, it is pretty devastating. The fact that you have 2 turns of 2 crit is very strong, But like, if you just don't open Blazing Star-Crossed on the turns you need to see it, you're virtually dead. Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we play one copy of Shooting Star Vajula. This is for the right deck again. And then moving on, we have 4 Azera, 4 Latifah, and 1 copy of N-Wing. So let's break it down. N-Wing is the newest card in this deck. She's honestly very good. Honestly, if I had a choice, I'll play 8 of her. Not only because she's kind of cute, it's also because she has really good effects. She's basically an Emmeline. She's basically a pocket version of Vajula. She's even a 15k shield, so she's even a pocket version of Azera. But why am I only playing her at 1? Well, I'll tell you her skill. When placed on a rearguard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vajula Vanguard, EB3, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and bind it, so just free of course bind. If your Azera unit attacks during this turn, this unit gains 5000 power, but it's stackable. So basically what happens is that every time Azera attacks against 5, because we rewrite the start Vajula, you can restand Azera. So the idea is that you basically get her to 20,000 power. Again, that basically makes her Emmeline, which if you know anything about Emmeline from Majesty or Blaster, that is pretty strong. But because of the fact that she's at odds with, I don't know, Fanfare for the competing front row rearguard slot, you see my problem? You see what I have to put up with? The whole deck wants to do different things at different times. It's so hard to play. Why did N-Wing even have to be a grade 2? Why couldn't it be a grade 1? I don't know. And then of course the final skill is that, you know, if you have a Vajula Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets 10,000 shield. In another universe where we didn't have to play this burst killer of Latifah, I will play her at 4. I think the idea of having a simultaneous same column 15k attacker to even 20k attacker for free is pretty good. But we just don't have space in this deck. And I'll show you why. Because the other card in this deck for the grade 2 slot is going to be Latifah. Latifah is the only card that makes Shooting Star Vajula work. And the only way she makes Shooting Star Vajula work is because she has synergy with Stardust Blade. You use Stardust Blade, you call her out, you still last one, you call another guy out, and then you just start building a skeleton board from there. Then you use Vajula's skill, +1 crit, and you pre-win. Other than that, this card is also useless. This card does not help you much as an attacker. Now in 2025, you have much better attackers in terms of, for example, the previously discussed N-Wing. You really did not need a justification to play another grade 2 15k attacker on turn 3. I promise you, this card is only played for the turn 2. Other than that, you just don't use her at all. She's just really bad. She competes in Soul Blast, and Soul Blast is already the resource you use for Fanfare. So, again, you may be asking me, but Amez, why not I just don't play this card since they are all anti-synergy? The problem is, without this anti-synergy, you can't even achieve the basic synergy you were going for, right? If you don't play Latifah, you cannot reach Shooting Star Vajula's skill to get +1 crit. It's just not gonna happen. So, again, it is pretty difficult, so yeah. But I will just tell you that if you don't have Latifah, it's not the end of the world, you can just not play her. But most Vajula players do play her because of the importance of the turn 2 crit. And the last card, the grade 2 lineup is Azera. Azera I'm playing at 4 because it is basically the Blaster Blade of this deck. If you just don't open Azera, you just die. I know people who say, oh, just play 1 to 2 Azera. You will find it with your grade 2 skill because you can search the whole deck. No, I'd rather open Azera as early as possible because all his stats come for free as early as possible. So this is a non-negotiable. And yeah, it's just that good. It's a 15k attacker, it's a 15k shield. It's one of the few strengths Vajula has left, and I don't intend to throw that out the window. I really don't. Our grade 1 lineup, we have 1 copy of Rising Star Vajula. This is for the right deck, so you already would have seen him just now. Other than that though, the rest of the grade 1s are pretty sad, if you ask me. We played 2 Flare Cosmo and 2 Cosmo together as a little split, 4 Perfect Guard and then 4 Justina. Perfect Guard is Perfect Guard. We want to stay alive. We're playing this Perfect Guard and not Sanctitude because we need to open normal units for Latifah and also so that Stardust Blade can actually chain off. So again, this is not by choice. This is because generally you need the units to call to the rearguard circle to rush him to death, right? Then we have a 2-2 split of Cosmo and Flare Cosmo. Honestly, this one is quite personal opinion as well. I'm playing this as a 2-2 split. Both of them have the same skill. When your Azera on the same column stands, you stand this unit, which is nice. This one can Superior call itself back from the grave for 1 counterblast or 0 counterblast if Azera is being called with Vajula's EB3 skill. Cosmo, the original, just when he boosts Ezra, your energy charge 1, and energy is very, very important in this deck now because you have so many cards to use energy. Your Vajula will use 3 energy per turn. You will also play cards like N-Wing who will cost energy, and yeah, you just generally will always need energy for all these different skills. Because of that, that's why I'm playing Cosmo. I know it's pretty slow of an investment because you need to wait like 3 turns to technically get energy charge 3, but you can use this as early as turn 2, right? And using this as early as turn 2 generally means that you will get enough energy fast enough. Going first, that's very important. Flare Cosmo, because his skill only allows you to call himself back when you have no other Flare Cosmo, you don't want to play Flare Cosmo in a very large amount. You only want to play 2 to 3 copies max. If not, that's it. Again, why did they feel the need to print 2 different Cosmo? I don't know, like, who asked for this? Like, Vajula has so many different issues right now. I'm pretty sure Cosmo number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 was not on my agenda at all. So again, I have no idea who asked for this. It's a very cute art. I am a huge fan of Cosmo, but I just want to know why they made this in the first place. Unlike N-Wing, who I had pretty high praise for despite only playing at 1 copy, I cannot say the same things about Flare Cosmo. Flare Cosmo was generally just created in a lab to piss me off because they just knew that I would get upset over such a card, and they just did it. So, congrats guys. And last but not least, we have for Justina. Justina is our order searcher from DZBKO2. You need her. She's a 4-off because she can 2-box the entire deck for a order from the deck, put it in the drop zone. You can play it from the drop zone and then it goes back to the deck. So basically it means that you can just fish out 1 order of any choice that you want, so any of your finishing blows, and then after that you can just put it back to the deck so you can naturally draw it back. This is too important for the deck. I understand it's a net 0 or even a -1 to some people, but for the consistency boost, I definitely recommend you pick her up. That if you have to pick between this and Shenri, I'm gonna say Justina, because down the line, as you get more and more finishing blows, you're gonna want ways to 2-box it, and this is definitely the way. Last but not least, our grade zeros. Our grade zeros, obviously, with our little Vajula, still our basic starter, and he's still my favorite. Look at the little guy. We play 1 drop Vega. If you stand the Vega, you win. We're playing 8 crits. We are playing the 4 of the effect crits this time because we need soul instead. And also because you do call your rear guards. You do call your triggers to rear guards, so you might as well use this. 4 heal, 3 effect front. I'm not playing draws because my goal is to just kill people. Like, that's actually my ambition. So I'm just going to rush people to death, and that's basically it. And that concludes my deck profile for Rewrite the Star Vajula APZBTO8/April 2025. Honestly, although I sound really pissed, I am still happy we even got this support because, you know, I am a huge fan of Vajula, but I'm just really upset at how they're doing it. If you compare this to Estacion, they are not anywhere near power level. Absolutely not. Which really begs the question why and how they even printed this support. I have complete faith in the mangaka, okay? I have complete faith that Daitempu Sensei is actually cooking really good shit in his manga. The fact that he's even making an Alfred crossover is virtual insanity. I really enjoy reading this manga monthly. It's one of the few things I look forward to besides going to church and seeing my friends and my parents. And that says a lot. So, very frankly speaking, I am a huge fan of Skywrite, but I just don't know what he was high on, or not he, or what Bushiroad was high on when they, you know, authorized this start deck. Like, in the first place though, making a start deck of 3/4 reprints, not a good idea. Making a start deck where all the new cards are really bad, also not a good idea. The only reason why people are buying this damn thing is because they shove in this powerful $30 reprint in Shenri, and that just forces people to buy out this deck set, which really sucks. It really just feels like they're forcing sales. And this deck is just nowhere as good as Estacion. The fact that they can print a tier 0 deck out of a start deck, but you can't even do a tier 2 for Vajula, it's upsetting, it really is. But I think Dragon Empire players moving forward, we will really need to rethink our basics. I think at this point, this nation has a huge fundamental issue that I may cover in a future video. I just really think Dragon Empire players, we need to wake up as a whole. We need to really rethink how we play this game because everyone is doing the same things we do now but better. Everyone is a better rush deck, everyone is a better stall deck, everyone is a better OTK deck. And it just really hurts me to see Dragon Empire become this state. Again, I really do hope that in DZ 9 or further down the line, we do actually solve this problem for Dragonfire and especially Vagina. But the way I see it, I'm not too sure. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.